Did you press? Oh, we're live.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Schoolhouse Podcast, where it is jumping. My name is Tratavius, and my mission is to provide a safe place for educators. Also, as well, I am a communicator. So, if your school or district is looking for someone to come in to speak to your students in regards to how to manage your emotions so far as in with students or anti-bullying, please email me at purpose.originatePurpose.com. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of interviewing Lavonda. How you doing today, Lavonda?
I am great, and I'm so happy to be here. I've been waiting for this moment, so I'm so happy.
Okay. Look, I'm excited as well. We're going to get into some good stuff today. Some good stuff today. All right, Lavonda, can you tell the people about your credentials and who you are and just the whole nine?
Absolutely. So, my name again is Lavonda Gray. I am an educator. I've been teaching for more than 10 years. I do primary education, K-6, but I do have my special education degree in K-12. So, I do a mixture of teaching a variety of students, mostly at risk students.
Hey, wait, say that again. You said so far as in what students? You said
At risk
at
students.
risk students. Okay, got
Yes,
you, got you.
at risk. Yes, that's my primary demographic that I've been working with for a majority of my time. And I thoroughly enjoy that. As you know, I am a full time tutor as well for Lovey's Lessons. So glad to be here.
Okay, great. That's some good stuff. So 10 years in the game. Okay. So
Probably,
go
probably
ahead.
longer.
Say that again.
Probably longer at this point.
Got you,
But
got
for
you.
the district, about at least a good 10 years. Yes, yes.
Okay. And I would like to ask, what inspires you? I always ask every guest that comes on this podcast, out of all the majors, what inspires you to go into education?
Okay. I did not actually start in education. I actually started as a corporate trainer in corporate America doing sales training, and I enjoyed that a lot. But I wanted to do something a little more wholesome, give back more to the community, and work with a different demographic of individuals. So I went from corporate training to teaching in the school system. And I just wanted to be able to help individuals that looked more like myself through the struggle. And, as you're growing up, you experience certain things in school and you just kind of want to make a way that other individuals don't have that same experience you have. You want to pave the way to make it a little bit better.
Got you. Pretty interesting, pretty interesting. Well, hey, you chose the right major. You in here now.
I love it.
Most definitely. So now I know that you mentioned you say you have 10 years in education, but you also are you working on doing curriculum? I know that we've had conversations about curriculum development. Kind of break me down with that process and how's that going and things like that.
Okay, well, I got into curriculum after a few years of teaching. As you are an educator, you learn the pitfalls, the areas of need, and you see some of the things that teachers struggle with. And one of the biggest things is planning and taking time out of your busy schedule to focus on planning, grading, or even behavior management. Those are the three big things that consumes teachers' time. So I wanted to create something where it would be a little bit easier for teachers. Print and go assignments, no prep necessary assignments, and also making sure that they're still engaging.
Mm,
Um, the district provides a good platform and a good starting point for curriculum and teaching students. But every teacher knows you need way more than the book gives you. So teachers are always searching for additional resources to supplement student education.
got you. Okay. You so so what in terms of when we talk about curriculum? Is it something that, so do you have your own curriculum?
So that is definitely the goal.
That's
Right
definitely
now,
no worries.
right now, I guess you could say I'm creating different elements of this curriculum. I focus mostly on language arts at this time and some math, the two things that students normally need the most assistance in.
Mhm.
And eventually, I will take all of the lessons that I've created through Lovey's lessons, and I will turn those into a complete curriculum for students.
Wow, that's a pretty big goal. That's a pretty big goal. Hey,
That's the goal.
curriculum is the way to go. Is the way to go. So we're kind of
Absolutely.
gonna bounce around here a little bit, but
Sounds good.
it's still gonna focus on education. So when you talk about how students do struggle with language arts and they struggle with language, you said language arts and math are one of the biggest barriers for students. I guess my next question would be is how do you normally deal with those students who has those barriers of, with language arts and math?
Well, one of the things you said earlier was talking about social emotional learning. That's the new big thing. If you look back, we talked about holistic education in the past, which had a similar foundation as social emotional learning, where we're focused on the whole child. My biggest thing, and how I think I have been able to be so successful, is focusing on the students, getting to know my students, engaging with my students, caring more about them than the curriculum. The curriculum matters, but if they don't matter, then it's all just a waste.
Mm,
So I have pretty personal relationships with most of my students,
mhm.
and we stay in touch. And once they know that you care for them and you're there to support their needs, then they're normally willing to learn. It's not that kids don't want to learn. They all want to learn, but they probably haven't been able to learn in a safe space before where they can express where they are truly and build from there without any bullying or harassment. So,
Mm, mm. No, that's real. That's real. I've actually seen before where, and I've seen posts where students were not motivated to learn. And where I seen a post from somebody that posted about that, and they were saying how the parents were not encouraging, like they weren't encouraging them to do well academically, and it seems like there was no support that was really given. So, have you ever been in a situation where you have a lot of students and there's just no support on the back end with the parents, and like you said, students, you saying that they want to learn, but I don't know, like that situation is kind of tough. Like, have you ever been in a situation like that before?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And especially with the tutoring component, that's when you really get to talk to the parents more. When you're a teacher in the classroom, you may talk to parents during parent teacher conferences and moments here and there, but there is no real time for you to get to know the parent.
Mm,
We spend a lot of time knowing the child. And what I have learned from talking to these parents is they don't know how to support their children sometimes.
mm, okay.
So it's not that they don't want to. That's the biggest thing I hear when I have tutor clients is I don't know what to do.
Mm,
Thank fix it.
mm,
So they want their kids to learn, of course. Kids want to learn, but
mm.
there are just small gaps. And if we fill those, then everybody can be on the same page and the students have a better chance at success.
Right, right. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So, as a teacher, I know that you have your tutoring business, right?
Yes.
How can the, and I guess this is a collective as a whole. How can the school system come together, and just from your personal perspective and your experience, how can the parents gain this information to know how to support their students? And I'm an inspired ed, but I thought, and this is just my personal thought process, is that when the school system has these parent teacher conferences, and I've always heard complaints about parents never show up to those. So I guess like what can the school system do, to kind of provide that information to support their students academically or their children, you would say.
Well, I think there has to be a shift.
Okay.
Like we've shifted in the way that we discipline students, more from corporal punishment type of shift. And now we're shifting into positive behavior reinforcement. So we also need to get into positive parent communication, and we need to change the face of education. So it's not something that parents are running from. Parents sometimes can see the school as a telemarketing call. You see that number pop up on your phone and you're just like, oh no, I'm not answering this one. I know they're going to stress me out. There's such a negative stigma associated with the education system and when it comes to parents and their children. And that's because teachers want to make positive phone calls, but again, there's just so many other things going on that we are only doing sometimes what is necessary. When it's hard down to it, this call has to be made. And now we're making the phone call in a situation where it's a negative. We never had any positive interaction with the parents, no positive engagement, but we want the parents on our team.
That's pretty interesting.
Imagine if that was a student.
Yeah.
You never met the student before and you have that same engagement with the student. As soon as the student comes into your class, you're building a barrier before you even get to, cross any bridges or anything. So I think we have to kind of shift how we look at communication in the school.
That was a dope gym. And it's funny that you say that because I was listening to this podcast and it was this principal. He's like the type of guy that he breaks all the rules, but he breaks the rules, but he's great at what he does. And it was interesting because what he said that he did is that he would get the parents. Of course the principal has the parents' information. So he would call that parent, and what he would do is he would just say, "Hey, I was just calling you to tell you happy birthday." And I was like, "Whoa, I've never heard of that before." So just imagine like if school districts was to kind of implement that across then like worldwide.
Right.
I think you do have a point. I think that communication is everything.
We have to create a safe space for parents.
Yeah.
So parents, because that's what happens when you're a tutor in this one-on-one. You get to build that relationship with the parents and they feel safe opening up and letting you know what their deficiencies are. And that's hard for parents, so they need a safe space as well on a much larger scale where they can let individuals know, hey, I need help here. Can you help me?
Right. That's real. And so I know that you mentioned that you have so you have your own tutoring company?
Yes.
Okay. So break that down for me. When did you start? What was that process like? What inspired you? Let's dive into it.
Okay. So Lovey's Lessons, the goal is to, again, align with my teaching philosophy. We're supporting at-risk students in academics and social emotional needs. We provide tutoring services and curriculum support for at-risk students. So that's how the two work together. Because at-risk students normally need a different curriculum than what is provided in the general curriculum through the school system. So Lovey's Lessons does customized lesson plans for each student based on their needs to fill their gaps, because preparing a student to go to the next grade without teaching them everything they should have learned in the previous grades is just still going to leave the child at a deficit. So we have individualized lesson plans for each child based on their needs to help the children get the information and the knowledge they need to be successful.
No.
So how did I start tutoring?
Mhm.
You see so many kids that need help. There's so many kids that fall through the gaps, and you don't really notice that until you are actually in the classroom. There's just with 30 students in a class and one teacher, and every student is on a different level. You're trying to support all of them at once, but honestly, there's just not enough time. And studies have shown the effects of one-on-one teaching versus 1 on 30 teaching. There's obviously a huge benefit to individualized teaching and learning. So I opened up Lovey's Lessons. Hey, let's start supporting. I had so many parents crying and complaining to me about their students needing more help, and they knew that I had such a good relationship with the students in the classroom and that the kids were learning so much in the classroom. If they could just get a little more time with me outside of the classroom, that their children would be able to grow significantly. So that's how it started. And then I said, oh, okay, well, parents are enjoying this. I could do this more, more and more. And I have returned parents. I've been working with some kids for years. Their parents call me back every year. Hey, can you please help my child? Absolutely. And that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So. And I think that's pretty cool, because I know, and just keeping it completely transparent, when I was growing up in school, I will never forget when I was in first grade and I asked a question in math class, and all the students laughed at me. And I promise you, I never asked. I didn't start asking questions again until it was time for me to graduate. And so I guess, and I think that, I mean, when I'm older now, when I look at it a little bit differently. I don't even know if the curriculum is really designed for students
who are
in
struggling.
classroom to ask as many questions as possible, because they have to get them ready for a test.
Right.
And like I said, it's only a short amount of time.
Right.
That they have to prepare for that. So that's a really good point.
Right.
That's a really good point. So I know that you mentioned that you are in special education as well.
Yes, that's how I started. My bachelor's degree is in exceptional student education. Sorry, every state, every place calls it something different. Exceptional student education, but we're kind of moving away from the ESC term. So now we're saying special education. So that is where most of my practice is. I first started in a EBD center for emotionally and behaviorally disturbed children. And that was interesting.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
That was interesting. I have literally seen all sides of special education, from students just needing minimal help in a gen ed classroom, but because now they're mainstreamed, all the way to, like I said, EBD and working in life skills. So my time in the EBD center with those students was, again, a great learning experience. You did get small class sizes, but you did have to support students who you had to support them in controlling their emotions. So it ranged from, and it was a center school, and we work with kids anywhere from elementary school all the way up to high school. It was a very small school. But we just focused with those children who needed help relaxing, controlling their emotions. They needed specialized facilities in order to express themselves and things like that. So that was EBD. It was great. We had runners. They would leave the classroom, and we would have to call people to help us get them. And sometimes we had explosive situations and things like that. But overall, it was a great learning experience. And even through all of that, those students are super sweet too. They're just dealing with something that they can't control. And we as teachers have to see past what's happening sometime and look at the students within. And that's all students. That's in most situations. So, yeah.
So how would you go about, when you talk about, helping them with their emotions? I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into that. how would you normally go about students who are, having bad behavior? How would you, I won't say bad behavior, but what's another word, a good word for it? I don't know. I can't think of it. But what is a way a student that's misbehaving or not following instructions, or they are just being disruptive to the class setting? How would you go about helping that student controlling their behavior? Because I think sometimes, like I know you talked about positive reinforcement, but sometimes I know when I was in school, the first thing that administrators used to do was suspend the students.
Right.
Most times, like that was like they first go to or get or expel them. But for you, like, how would you go about, when it came to managing their behavior?
It all goes back to building those relationships, honestly and truly. When you build those relationships, something major happens. The students develop a respect for you that they may not have for a teacher that doesn't know them or understand them. So when a student respects you, they want to work hard for you. They want to please you, and it starts there with having the kids know that you want the best for them. So when a situation may arise, now because you have a good a good relationship with the student, you can diffuse that quickly, because now I can talk to you as I can bring it down to your level, and you're going to hear me as someone who cares about you, and not just someone who is disciplining you.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation and a stranger talks to you versus your friend talking to you, you're more likely to listen to your friend and listen with an open heart and an open mind, not just someone who is trying to talk you down out of a situation that doesn't really care about you. So there are many ways to work with those kids, but the first thing is to make sure you know them. And when you know your kids, you know what's going on. I can tell you intimate stories about a lot of my students. I know my students. I know what they did last weekend.
Oh.
I know where their parents work. I know where their dad is. I can tell you what their parents did. I can tell you what their parents did last weekend, because I'm that involved in their life. You understand? Yeah. It's like they came to school with their aunt and not just an outsider. So when you're in my class, you're at home.
A home environment.
We're at home, and you're going to govern yourself accordingly, because this is family. And that's always the environment that I try to create with the students. So when I talk to you, this is family. When we're learning, this is a whole family environment. So there's no belittling anyone. There's no making anyone feel bad. And if you can eliminate some of those things that are triggers for the kids, you essentially are eliminating the behaviors before they even occur. You're eliminating all the things that are going to create the behaviors, So it's important to know your students and create a safe, positive learning environment for them. And that takes care of half of it.
When you say triggers, what do you mean by that? When you say triggers?
Oh, well, just like you said, your own personal experience.
Gotcha.
Being laughed at.
Yeah.
Being teased. That's major. Kids hate that. So this is a no judgment zone. Kind of like when you go to Planet Fitness, no judgment zone.
Oh, yeah.
You're free to lift at your own pace. You're free to ask questions. You're free to roam here. And everyone is going to respect you the way I respect you, because that's my expectation of these students. And again, it goes back to, they will respect you and do what you ask them to if they know who you are and know that you genuinely care about them. So I don't really have a lot of behavior issues.
Oh, wow.
I know. I think I probably had maybe one fight the whole time. I literally stepped out of the classroom, and she's gonna kill me when she hears this, because she knows. I stepped out of the classroom for one moment. I had to go do something. I had a neighbor teacher watch my class, And by the time I came back, the kids were going crazy.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. But as you walk in, they know your presence, and it shifts, it settles right back down. It settles down because they know, oh, we're not tolerating this here, not in my classroom. But yeah.
Creating that home environment. I like that. That's good stuff. And also as well, when we talk about special education, now I'm not sure if you know this, but how does it normally go in terms of when they go about selecting their students? Like, do they choose the people who have the lowest test scores when it comes to special education, or?
Well, to be officially placed in special education, you must be tested and go through a process. Because now you will have an individualized education plan given to you by the district, determining what your true education levels are, your disabilities may be, and come up with a plan with a team of people as to what we need to do to support you. So I am just one person in a team of people who are trying to support these children through their educational careers. And to become a special education teacher, of course, there's a test. There's a test to get into everything. So I did take that assessment, and I did get the schooling in special education, and that is how that took place.
So when you talk about the test, now are you referring to in terms of do they have specific students that they choose, or is it everybody that gets tested?
Well, no, the students are identified based on their current level of performance. So it starts again with the teacher. It's the teacher who has to identify, hey, little Johnny is not doing so well, and he hasn't been doing well over and over. And they have tiers of support starting in the classroom. So if I start with him and we're teaching whole group and he doesn't get it, now I'm going to try and teach him in a smaller group of students similar to him that may not understand this particular concept. So now I'm just teaching to these 5 kids, maybe 6, 7 kids. So now he has the opportunity to have an intimate learning experience with me.
Yeah.
So that's the second step. And Johnny's still not getting it. He's just not understanding what Ms. Gray is trying to teach him. So now we're going to take this to one-on-one. I'm going to work with you one-on-one, and I have to be able to identify his needs and meet him at his level. So a part of that is identifying what level is he truly at. And I can't do that in a group. You can get an idea, okay, well, he's not currently on this 5th grade level because I'm teaching 5th grade material. He's not getting it. Immediately, I know he's not on level. But what level is he on? So that's what we need to figure out. So you go through your 3 tiers and you say, okay, well, he's still not comprehending the information in a successful manner. I need to bring this up. I need bigger help outside of myself at this point to come in and help me with Johnny, because he's not able to grasp the information in a generalized manner. Right. So you reach out to the support team. Every school normally has what they call an RTI team, and that is just a resource intervention type of team. And they will come and test him, and they will take him out of class, and they will do more in-depth analysis of this student's knowledge base. And they will test him on a variety of skills to determine where these gaps are coming from. Not just what the gaps are, but how are these gaps being developed? Is it a learning disorder? Is it a health impairment that's keeping him from learning? Because I've had students who you tell it to them and 2 seconds later they forget. Some kids have memory issues or whatever it is. So the RTI team will work with the psychologist to do psychological evaluations, to do language test, because is it a language thing? You know, I've also worked with a large ESOL population. So is it a language thing why we're not getting it? Or is it that we just don't understand completely? So they go through all those assessments and identify the area of concern and what is causing it. And they develop goals for these students that are aligned to where they currently are learning. So if Johnny's in 5th grade, but he's learning on a 3rd grade level, they're setting the goals based on his 3rd grade level. And IEPs are taken into consideration at the beginning and the middle and the end of every single year. They get reevaluated to see, are they making those markers? Are they hitting the markers?
Wow. Yeah, and you know what's funny? And this is the reason why I asked, like, because I was in special education, but here's the thing. I just felt like I wasn't really educated on what was really going on. All I knew is me being in special education led to me getting bullied. But I do remember getting pulled out a lot for all these different tests. And I'm like, these random people just keep pulling me out of class and I don't even know who these people are.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But now that you walk me through that process, I'm trying to figure out, why is there still such a huge learning gap for students? Because if these tests and all these resources are put into place, of course, I think it does come down to motivation, them willing to do the work. But why aren't, I guess it's like I'm still a little confused. Like, why don't students feel as supported, or maybe teachers don't feel as supported if the students with the learning gaps are identified and then they go through this process? I don't know. That thought just really came through my mind as you were just telling me, because that's a lot of resources.
Now, that goes back to what I was telling you on how I started to develop the curriculums.
Yeah.
Teachers don't have time. See, I only told you about Johnny, but you have Xavier over there and Gerald over there and Donovan and Shirley. And there's like maybe 12 of these students in your class of 20 odd, or 15 of them. And, you know, like a majority of your class can need individualized attention.
Wow. Okay.
But you're an instructor and you get 1 hour. Yeah. When you get to middle school, I've always worked in departmentalized elementary schools.
Okay.
So you know, language arts is teaching language arts and maybe history, and you're not seeing the kids for a full 8 hour or 7 or 6 hour day. You're seeing them for 1 hour, maybe 2, because some schools have gone to block scheduling. 2 hours to work with 15 different kids on 15 different levels. And you need an individual. They tell you where the student is, but no one gives you, what do they give you to support them?
Well, doesn't the curriculum is supposed to support them, right?
On grade level. But Johnny's on 3rd grade level. Shirley's still in 2nd grade level. And I got to teach this one how to read. And we're in 5th grade. We're in 5th grade. And this one, I'm over here doing letter blends with him, you know. Bruh. So,
yeah.
1 hour. So you give your all. You really give your all as an educator. You really try to support the kids as best as you can and meet them where they are and all those things that sound so beautiful. But the reality of it is, I'm making up 3 years in 1 hour. And then I still have to teach you the 5th grade stuff.
Yeah.
So how are you passing the 5th grade stuff if you're on, you know? So it's very complicated. And that's where teachers spend a lot of time planning. Now we're looking for the same thing on a 2nd grade level, a 3rd grade level, a 4th grade level, a 5th grade level. The school doesn't give you all that information on all those different levels. They give you here's your 5th grade book. Thank you. That's all you get. And some teachers will tell you they don't even have the textbook. So most of the things that they're teaching these students is coming from within, and they have to do the research and go out there and find these resources to support the students on their own. And you have some teachers that do that and they're very passionate about that. And then you have some that may not be as passionate about that. So and that just perpetuates the problem when you don't. And but then if you are a good teacher and you teach them well and you get those kids to raise and you're highly effective and your scores go up and you're a shining star, guess what? You get to teach those same type of kids every single year.
Wow. wait.
You're so good at it. You move those kids so good, Miss Gray. We're going to give you these type of kids every year. Every year.
Wait, hold on. So basically, you kill it. Oh, okay. That's a
and you better keep killing it. That's
and you'll get that every year. Oh,
every year, because the school has a goal to reach.
Yeah.
And they need people who are going to help them reach that goal. And you know, and if you love what you do, it's not a problem. You just get those kids. But I think that also adds to your burnout. You know, you have to mix it up with the teachers and where they're learning, who they're teaching, and different things like that. But yeah, it's all tied together, and it's an adventure education.
I think that is actually an interesting perspective, because when you think about it, you know, a lot of people go into education because they're excited and they're willing to serve, right? You got some exciting teachers, but that's a tough spot to be in, because if you do your best, then you get the same students. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So you probably that's something I wasn't aware of. So you probably got some teachers that's like, yo, I want to give it my best, but I don't want to keep having the same students with all the different learning gaps. Because that can cause somebody to really burn out.
Yes. Because where you have a teacher who, all my kids are on level, I'm going to use this textbook and all of them are going to get it when I say it.
Right.
Immediately. They're going to get it. I'm going to show a video. We're going to do this one activity. And that is how the curriculum and districts are designed.
Yeah.
You're only allowed to spend about 1 week on a topic. There's 9 weeks in a quarter. So you get to teach 9 things, 9 concepts. And once that 1 week is up, you spend 1 week teaching a concept. And if the student doesn't get it in the 1 week, you wait until maybe the end of the year when we're practicing for state testing, and you may see it again. But some kids, it takes more than a week, 1 hour a day for 5 days. So 5 hours, it takes more than 5 hours to develop, pick up a concept.
Wow. That's some interesting information. I'm pretty sure some people out here listening to this podcast, they're like, wow. Because I think I have like aspiring eds, people who are already in education, like some of the information that you provided that I wasn't even aware of, and that, as I'm currently in school, that I haven't ran across that information yet. I don't even know if I will, but that's just good information to know. Seriously, it really is.
I'm currently doing my dissertation on preparing educators for what teaching really is versus what it's supposed to be. You have a lot of teachers that come out and a lot of them say what you're saying. No one taught me this in school.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's why I think teacher turnover is so high. I think teacher turnover is about 5 years. Teachers work for about 5 years and then they may transition on to do something else. But if people knew what they were getting into before they got into it, I don't think it would scare them away. I think that it would help them to better prepare themselves for when they get in.
Right. So how has it been? How has it been for you teaching through a pandemic right now? I know we have COVID going on. How has that been for you? Or even just tutoring? Has there for you personally or people around you within the school community, Have you seen anything that was different than not the norm, or have you felt drained or burnt out, or
The pandemic and teaching. Let me tell you.
let's get into
We
it.
could have a whole podcast just about that. Students are different. That is a whole chapter. My students are different. They're different. We talked about that just today. They're not the same kids anymore. They were isolated for years. So now you're seeing, I wouldn't say regression, but they haven't hit certain milestones that they should have by this age or whatever age they are. I would say handwriting, even down to handwriting, has changed. Imagine we were on computers for 2 years. No one wrote anything. Now I get student handwriting. I wish I had my sample next to me. Student handwriting is atrocious. No one has, so now teachers have to spend time on teaching kids how to write handwriting all over again. And as simple as that. Interpersonal skills, they're reduced because they've been home all this time. So now they don't know how to get along with others that they haven't seen in a long time or in such close proximity. Students' anxiety is out the roof now. More students are having counselors or needing mental health support since the pandemic, whether it's because of loss of family members or, this is a variety of things that's happened since the pandemic. So you definitely see mental health cases increasing in students. Unfortunately, suicide levels have been increasing with our students. And I think the pandemic just made all of that a little bit more heightened. So yeah, it's been a lot. And I think if you notice, teachers are leaving education a lot faster. So I talked about the 5-year turnover, but teachers have been leaving a lot faster since the pandemic because all of those things that I've told you before, in addition to now I have more to teach these children, I have to deal with way more emotional behavioral outbursts and sometimes breaking down. And it just takes a lot. And you have educators who are also dealing with the pandemic. So they're dealing with loss with their family or whatever's going on. And you have to give so much of yourself. To be a good teacher, you really have to pour into the students emotionally. And sometimes that's just hard when teachers are going through so much personally.
Yeah.
They're going through the pandemic as well.
Man, and you mentioned about suicide, and I think that, and this is a little, it's a little emotional, but as you express about suicide, I think, man, especially for teachers and students, like you said, I think mental health is so big right now, And I was reading this story about, and I'm not sure if you heard the story. It was actually a student. She was a cheerleader, I think, at a HBCU, and she took her life away, And I think it was something dealing with school or her academics or classes was just tough, man. So I know during this podcast, I definitely want to encourage you, all educators and students, man. If you feel burnt out or you feel like, man, this sucks, definitely have some self-care things put into place to take care of your mental well-being, man, because I mean your life matters. Your life matters. So I just definitely wanted to encourage that. So LaVonda, go ahead. No, what were you about to say? You about to say
I say absolutely. And it's so sad that self-care has become, I think the term self-care has become so overused that people believe they're self-caring, and I think they're still neglecting themselves. In I don't think they really realize what self-care is. And if you ask the listeners some questions, so listeners, how is your self-care routine? Do you believe that you have great self-care habits? And then they'll all say yes. Everybody thinks, oh, yes. And then you dig a little deeper and you say, well, what did you eat today? How did you sleep today? And we don't realize we push ourselves so hard a lot of the times that we're neglecting the little things. Did you just take a nap? Did you relax? Did you read a book? Did you walk? Who took a walk? Did you walk today? Did you exercise today?
That's real. That's
Right,
real.
right. And we think we are good to go, but it really takes a lot out of us. So we really have to make sure we're just doing those little things to take care of our mental well-being.
And if you actually think about it, when we talk about self-care, even in education, like there will now I'm not saying that, with the pandemic and COVID and teaching, like I'm not disregarding that, but I can only imagine there will possibly be a increase in teachers staying if people took more initiative about their self-care, mental well-being. I don't know, that's just my thought. I'm just thinking about that.
They're so busy lesson planning. They don't have time.
Yeah. I know.
I'm joking, but I'm joking, but I'm serious because one
Right.
thing you learn about teachers is teachers are super passionate about their students. They want to give them their best, and that's why teachers take work home. No one gets paid to take work home, but we're always trying to go above and beyond for the students. Teaching is a service field, and we just want to serve other people, but
That's real.
we have to take care of ourselves as well.
That's real. And we are about to actually come to a close, but I have two more questions for you.
Absolutely.
So what are some things that you do, to take care of yourself outside of school, to prepare your mind mentally to attack the day, with your students and things like that? I'll ask that question. I'll go to the next question.
Okay. Meditate.
Okay.
Meditate. That helps a lot. It puts a lot of things into perspective. It helps you to let go too of whatever baggage and whatever is building up. So you don't get to a breaking point. You're still able to maintain. It helps you to realize why things are happening. It takes the ego out of the situation. It's not always about you. And that is really helpful. So you meditate, which brings your stress levels down. You're not so worried about things all the time, and I'm speaking for myself, trying to be such a perfectionist or whatever the case may be, or what the principal said to you the other day. Let it go. Maybe that principal had their own stuff going on. So meditating really just helps you to stay centered and focused on what's important to you.
Good stuff. So educators, meditation is one. You just gave you one. So that's one that you could take away from this podcast. When the school day is over, kind of, hey, relax, meditate, and that's one good tip. So I appreciate you sharing that. The last question I have for you is where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I need a learning center. Some people call it a school, but a learning center where students have the opportunity to learn year round. If I could change one thing about education, I would give kids more time in school to get the support that they need, because as I was saying, it's just not enough time. And break up the breaks, of course, but they'll learn the skill that they need to survive, not just what the curriculum is currently pushing out for the kids. So I definitely want to have a center that provides extensive mental health resources, small class sizes, that's big, and mindfulness activities with personalized learning plans, pinpointing students' needs, and preparation courses. That's a big part of what I would have in the learning center before a child goes to the next grade. Like you said, after we do all this analysis and all these IEP people come in and everybody does what they have to do, I believe there needs to be a transition point. Now that we know what he needs, let's put them in a good environment where they can develop those skills that they missed from those years, and then within the few months or whatever it takes, then put them back into the class with on level. But yeah, that's just the plan to continue supporting students in the best way I know how.
And where can the amazing viewers, where can they follow you at?
At Lovies_lessons on all platforms, or I'm also at www.lovieslessons.com for your curriculum needs or tutoring needs.
All right, sounds great. Well, thank you so much, LaVonda, for taking the time out your day.
I got to go back to planning.
Say it again.
I have to go back to planning here.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But yeah, thank you so much for taking time out your day just to provide some great insight. I know we kind of bounced around, but it was some good stuff. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I enjoyed speaking to you today.
All right, most definitely. You should be able to click in now. Here we go. Welcome to the Schoolhouse Podcast office. Today I have the honor and pleasure of interviewing LaVonda. She provided a lot of great insight. You know, she mentioned how the learning gaps are crazy. You know, you can have 30 plus students and everybody's at different places at different times. And I can only imagine how overwhelming that can be. But one tip, you know, for you educators out there that you can do is take the time out to take care of yourself. So even if that's meditation, you know, reading a book, you know, walking, getting some fresh air, whatever that looks like for you. Today, I just want to heavily encourage you guys to make sure that you are taking care of yourselves. Yes, the students need you. Yes, the school may need you. And that's important to give it your best, to give it 100. But make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because at the end of the day, you matter. You as an educator, you matter. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please share, subscribe on YouTube, tell your other teacher friends, your principals, administrators, superintendents, tell everybody about the Schoolhouse Podcast. Thank you guys for rocking with me, and I am out.